welcome everyone to my new video. Thank you for watching. So today I'm going to build on top of what I covered in the last video. So in the last video I talked about WhatsApp flows and the WhatsApp flows using the pywce library. So the WhatsApp flows that we tackled, we were coming from a stage-based approach when you're developing WhatsApp chatbots in trying to see how you can streamline those stage-based. That can be 17 flows, 17 stages, or 17 steps, 8 steps, 4 steps, whatever that you have, in trying to see how you can make that better in terms of collecting user information using WhatsApp flows. So, as usual, you're using a pywce library, a template-driven WhatsApp chatbot library that I've been working on. So this, like, unlike other WhatsApp libraries out there that are there with Python and other client libraries, they are more of client libraries. You can only send messages. They do not handle the WhatsApp chatbot development. So my library takes it one step further so that you can develop chatbots of any scale. They can be quite complex or they can be quite basic, as we have been seeing from our previous video. So as we can see here that our previous video, we were looking at how we manage to avoid, or we manage to avoid having 4 steps, 7 steps, 8 steps, and to use a WhatsApp flow. Remember, we're using a booking. We're using a booking chatbot that was basic chatbots where you're able to book for a system or anything, a booking a demo or something like that. But remember, there's one flaw that approach had. The time slots that we need to give to the user, they were static. So if we take a look at our example, this is what we had if you go on our WhatsApp manager. Remember, go on WhatsApp manager flows, and these are the flows that we have currently. So we're only focusing on this one. So I'm just going to click this one and you're going to know what we're talking about. So this is our flow that we had previously. If we look at the preview, so as you can see here, the time slot here, these are static time slots. Now, this is not a real world use case because time slots, some of them they'll be booked already, and you would want to see which you'd also want to play around with those available times. So if it's a business, a consultant, a dentist, or anything, that you'd want to change this to suit your available time slots. So we want to see how we are going to use WhatsApp flows, another feature of WhatsApp flows, to dynamically have this. So we have two options here. So first, we can pass data initially when WhatsApp renders this flow to the user. So WhatsApp enables you to send initial data that you want in all this. You can send initial data to say, okay, I want this field to be not required, or I want this field to be visible or not visible. You can initially send data to your WhatsApp flow so that WhatsApp will use that when it is about to render the screen, the flow to the user. So that's one step. The other step, which is more complex, is WhatsApp flow endpoint. So that is that's a complex approach. To some people, that might be challenging to understand, to grasp it first. But once you get the hang of it, they are very easy to use. So if we take a look at the guys, at the official WhatsApp documentation, we can see that they have ways of how you can implement WhatsApp flow endpoint. Now, the WhatsApp flow endpoint on its own has its own steps that you need to set up. It is encryption and decryption process that you need to set up. So we are going to look at how we're going to use this method. So our first approach is going to be a very simple one, a very basic one. So I want to make one point clear that it's not all flows that needs to implement an endpoint. Sometimes you just need to, you can do away with the hard coding if you know that meets your requirement, like the way we did here. We initially just hardware the time slots for the user to select. Or if you do not want that, you can initially send the data when you are rendering the WhatsApp flow. Or you can also use WhatsApp flow, implementing endpoints for flows. So you're going to see how to use those two methods. So it's going to be a long video for this one, but you're going to see how we're going to use the pywce library, how it simplifies some of these tasks for you. So we're going to reference the official documentation for WhatsApp flows. So to begin with, let's compare the what we had before. This is what we had before. When user says hi and user receives the message, you are going to render or going to show the initial flow stage, and this is going to show our WhatsApp flow. And after that, user submits, we are going to show them a summary, and then they confirm, and then that's it. So this does not have the flow endpoint functionality, which is what we want to implement next. So this is the flow for WhatsApp flow endpoint. So what the main difference is that before the flow is rendered between the one with the flow endpoint and the one without the flow endpoint. The one without the flow endpoint works in a way that before the message is rendered on the WhatsApp on the user WhatsApp screen, WhatsApp will, if you send the initial payload, WhatsApp will use that and then will send that all together with, or when rendering it on the user WhatsApp device. But when you're using flow endpoint, WhatsApp will only trigger an endpoint or call an endpoint to your server when it reaches on that component which needs to have that server. So if you look at the official documentation of WhatsApp in terms of its components, there are some components that allow you to implement this server request, which uses flow endpoints. So if you take a look at we're just going to show it on the flow JSON components so that you see the difference between which components will allow you to make a server request and which ones you are not allowed to make a server request. Like for example, if you look at the text components, literally they don't allow you to that they have no options to call a server request, but the drop downs they have an option for that. The chip select they have options for that, and so we'll just see here which components allow for that. So I'm just going to scroll down to see to show you the difference in these components, which then allow you to pass dynamic data. So if you take a look at the documentation of WhatsApp for flow components, if you see on text components, if you see here it's called say data and it say dynamic data.text. So it means here you can actually pass dynamic data on this text. The text can be dynamic. If you want to control the visibility, you can control it using the data. So we will see which what where is this data coming from. We will see in a second. So if we go down, we see on the these are rich text. There is nothing here. I'm just going to show you the difference in the components on what they the type of options that they have. So you have to go through each and every component that you need and you see which are the options that they have here. So if you see here on a checkbox, if we are on checkbox component, you see that it has the data source here. And we initially what we did here, we manually added the data source here. This is static data. We added the list of items that we want our user to select. So this is static. But you can also use this dynamic data to data source where you pass it dynamically. So depending on the version of the flow that you're going to use, there are different type of fields that WhatsApp now allows you to have on that data source. So on some you can have title and description. On some you can include the main message. On some you can also include the color like this, just depending on the version that you're using. So for this example that I'm going to do, I'm just going to stick to version 5.0, which have very few options for you to play around with, because our use case might not need to have image or out text or color or something like that. So I'm just going to use the basic example for this one, which is before 5.0. So if you see here on another, if you go down here, you see on select action. This is what shows you that this component can make a server request if you implement WhatsApp flow endpoint. So that was just wanted to clear that to move that away. So what you're going to work on for, in our case is a drop down. So this is what we're going to work on. So what we need to do is if we are going to come here on WhatsApp flow and for us to implement dynamic data, if we go down now on WhatsApp documentation, you will see that they give you there is a section which they explain about dynamic defining the layout, dynamic components. Here, this is where they show you, they say, if you check the attribute mode of a certain components drop down date picker, you find that some of them accept the on XXX action. That means this can make a request if you implement WhatsApp endpoint. So they tell you how you are going to do it. So the main thing for you to understand here is to define a server model. So what you're going to do here, what you're going to implement, we are going to show it here, show work on our example that we had. And so what you are going to do, the data attribute, if you take a look at this, previously, if you take a look in your flow, you had this data, which was an empty map or dictionary, whatever that you call it. But since you are working with Python, you just call it a dictionary. You have an empty dictionary here. This is where you pass data that you want to pass here. That's the one that you had to reference using the data object. If you take a look at, I'm just going to use a drop down, continue using drop down as an example here. Since our in our use case, we enable user to select your time slot using a drop down. So if you see this code data dot is enabled, data dot is required, this is the reference for WhatsApp flow. This data here, this is reference for WhatsApp flow. So in our use case, I'm just going to show you how it will be like. So we are going to we name it any variable name that you want. This is time slot. So it's of type array because you want to pass that list of time slots. So previously it looked like this. So I'm going to show you how it looks like after we finished working with dynamic data. So this is how it works. So I'm just going to say the ID, the type. These are the properties that we're going to have. This is more like a model, your class. So the type was you see the type of object. So these are like the object parameters, object fields that are going to have. So we're going to have a title, we're going to have description, a metadata. So how I've got this, I just took them from here. This is the example that I used. Even if you take a look at the WhatsApp example, this is what I just took here. This is what I took. So okay, we're here. So I just did is that, and you see here, if you take a look at the example drop down, they want the fields here that they mentioned. On this one, on the example, there's no enabled property. So I just added it because if you added that, it's going to change how WhatsApp is going to display those drop down components on the on the on the user WhatsApp screen. So if you added an enabled property, if it's false, then it will be great in a way that user cannot select it. So I wanted it because in this case of a booking screen, I want to showcase that a certain time slot might be say booked already. So we would want the user to select it. So we might show user only the time slots that are available, or we can show them all the time slots together with those that are already booked. So this is just for demonstration purposes. So if you see here, there's this property called enabled boolean, and it's in everywhere. And I wanted to use this property. That's why I've added it here, and it's a boolean. So if you can see, I just added example. So the example here is it's just used so that you are able to see it on your preview. This doesn't mean is the one that is going to be shown the user. So the example here only shows because it's going to be shown on the preview. That's why you see here that the example. So you can play around with this. Actually, you can edit, and you see how it shows on here. So you can see I've added this amount here. So that's why we have the example. So it shows you. So as you can see, this is what we have. And now on our data drop down component, we are going to reference the data that we have added to signal that when we initially call this we WhatsApp flow screen and we pass our dynamic data from our backend to our server, WhatsApp is going to use the time slot, the time slot that we pass from the data. So this is how our time slots are going to be passed down here. So if we run this, we should be able to, since I have not yet run this, I should be able to see changes here. If I click on the time slot, I should be able to see the difference of how the previous one and this current one that we've added is going to look like. So previously we had this static data, but if I click on run here, we should be able to see something like this. So this is where we want to go. So this is just going to show users that 12 p.m. has already been booked, 3 p.m. has already been booked. So this is just for testing. So this is okay. So once we are done here, this is the first stage. There's no WhatsApp flow endpoint implementation here. We're just using initial data that we need to pass from our server. So I'm going to save this flow so that the new changes are going to reflect. Now, once this step is done, we need to now look at our code. So we are going to go back to our code and to see what is the saving here. We are just going now, the flow is saved. We're going to go back to our code. So I'm just going to close these two. So I'm just going to come in here and so this is our previous template that we had, where we had our template hook here that saved and also prefilled this template. But what we now need for us to pass the initial flow data that we need, we're also going to use the same template, but the only difference is the field that is passed on that template. So I'm just going to, okay, so that is clear. So we are just going to say, okay, here in book, I'm just going to add another. This is the previous book that we had. I'm just going to add another one that is called, I just added another one here that is called get available booking slots. So this one is going to be responsible for just, for example, taking the available book slots from anywhere that you have, be static, be something that you change in your environment variables, or database, or saving, or anything. All we need is the same data structure, is this, is the same model structure, is this that we've defined here. So that WhatsApp will be able to render the ID, the title, the description, everything that we've defined in here. So what you are going to do here, I'm just going to uncomment here. So the same thing here, you're going to know this is the variable name of our data that we are passing here, because you can pass a lot of other data items here, but for this example case, I'm just going to use that time slot. That's why I also have the time slot key here, and then I need to pass the list of these available booking slots. So for that one, I just defined my own local data source, where which you have constants. So as you can see, the structure is the same as we have defined on our WhatsApp flow, on WhatsApp manager. So here, this is what I've defined. I just called this one alias date. So I've just separated the name so that we will see the difference. So here I say 10 a.m. book at 10 and all that stuff. But here I call it, I just give it some sort of package name. So alias bed, get ahead of your schedules. 10, this one's 10 a.m., 1000 hours, 1200 hours. So I'm just going to change here. Okay. 1200, and this one is a 1500 hours. So that's it. These are available booking slots. So I'm just going to get it from our local data source, local data source, local data source dot available booking slots. That's it. And after that, we are going to now update. You are going to mutate the hook arg that we passed. So it is a field called flow payload. If you have seen our previous video, we have rendered template payload. This one is responsible for rendering a template, but you can reuse the same template hook. But this one now, the flow payload is the only purpose for this one is for initial payload data, which in this case what we want to do here. So we passed here, this is our initial, and then that's it. This is all. Once we're done with this, then we should be able to send our the available slots that we need from our backend initially to WhatsApp. So we should be able to see these time slots being dynamic and being available to us. So that if we know that maybe other users have already booked this one, you can come here and say true. So these are just for demonstration purposes. So here it's okay. I say, just say so that it's short. It's shorter. Just going to assign midday sun. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to leave it like this. So okay, so this is it. We are done here. So how we are going to run this is the same way we have been running our chatbots. We run in local. We connect to ngrok here. I've already set up here. Already have my endpoint that I've set up. As usual, this is the basic thing that we always do on every chatbot since we are working on local. So that part is done. And the other thing, if you're now working on this in this folder, booking flow endpoint, on my env, I already pointed to that one because I just copy and pasted from this, and we are adding a new hook. So that's it. This is the one that we have done. Don't worry about other fields. We'll take a look at them. So this is okay. Now what we need to do is to run our chatbot and to see if we are able to see the new implementation that we have done. So let's just go to verify here that we have we saved here. So this is it. So now let's see if our chatbot is running. Okay, if we come back here, just go on our console and just yeah, just start this one. So everything else should remain the same. The difference is that we are not going to see those static data, but we are going to see those dynamic time slots, with some of them being unavailable for us to select. So once that is done, then we are good to go. We can now start looking at implementing endpoints in flows. So we should be up and running. So I'll just show you here, and let me begin. Yes, we have already been doing. So if you take a look at this, I just also show, just like how we've been doing before. I also showcase the from our template against what we are seeing here. So if everything goes well, we should be able to see a response from WhatsApp. Also checking our logs if there's anything that we okay, something happens here. Let me try something again. Just try to say hi again. We network is slow. We hope something is going to show from this side one. Okay. Okay. Just waiting for a response. Otherwise, we have to troubleshoot to see what's happening with our network today. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Finally, the response. There's something just happening with my network. Okay. So here we are. So if I say begin booking here, we should be able to see those dynamic values being rendered on our screen. So once that is done, then you are going to quickly move on to implementing endpoint. So let's just see, wait for a flow to be rendered on our screen. So once that is done, we should be able to confirm what you said, taking our details, our booking details. Okay, so here we see, let's see now. So if you click on our flow, let's just see this moment of truth. Okay, yeah, something's definitely wrong with the network. But we're going to see if we're going to win this one. Maybe we're going to do a short break and then change my network. So, yep. Okay, okay, finally. So, without filling out the details, I'm just going to click on time slot. So, exactly, this is what you'll be looking for. So, if we go in our data, this is what you'll be looking for. So this is what we have been looking for. If we go on our data, exactly this one. So you see this one is true, this one is false, this one is true. So we managed to implement to send initial flow data to our WhatsApp flow, and WhatsApp responded accordingly to what we want. So you can say, okay, fine, I need the evening starter. And here I can say I'm John, I can say yada yada, I can say whatever that I want, just confirm and then I submit. So the response is going to be the same as we've been doing before. So if you look at your log, this is what you get. This from the additional data that already been done for us by the framework. But if you also click on this flow response, you can see the same information that you have filled on the WhatsApp. So I'm having issues here, so I'm just going to pause and then change a little bit and then come back.